In Sunday's Gospel readings, we follow a king who's planning his son's wedding. In his preparation, the king invites 3 different groups of people, and each group has a different reaction. I think these 3 different reactions are reminiscent of different reactions we may have while responding to God's calling in our own lives. First, we see a group of guests who simply refuse to come. Next, we see a group of guests who would prefer to do their other tasks instead of coming to the wedding. These tasks are things like farming or tending to their businesses. Lastly, we meet the final group. This is the group that finally comes to the feast. But when the king comes to greet them, he notices one man without a garment. I think when looking at this parable, it is crucial to remember that the king is inviting people to a feast. And God's plan for us is ultimately that, a feast. A feast is a good and enjoyable thing. In reflecting on this reading, we may ask ourselves, why would someone plainly reject this invitation? When we're invited to a wedding, we would usually say yes, unless there was a legitimate reason we weren't able to attend. Why would someone prefer to go to work? Why would someone prefer to tend to their business instead of going to this celebration? But how many times do we reject God's calling and invitation in our own lives? Just because they do not line up with things that we had already planned. When we feel God calling us to do something difficult or unexpected, what do? I know that sometimes I am tempted to put God to the side and do my other tasks first, kind of like the second group. Other times, even when I do show up, I forget my garment. For me, that means I am coming with fear or doubt in what God's inviting me to do, even though deep down I know that these things will ultimately lead to a feast if I were to just follow God. It is easy to get caught up in the difficulties of life, but ultimately we must remember that God is inviting us and gifting us to a feast, and all we have to do is trust in God's goodness and enjoy what life has in store for us. Thank you.